What's going on, man? You in the building,
my
baby?
brother? Hey, man, this place is fat. I think I might fill out an application just so I can show up every day and look out the city skyline. They office is crazy up here.
JQ, man. The last thing that I seen, which was mind blowing to me, right?
Yes, sir.
Because you talked about it. This man was on your vision board some years ago.
Yes, sir.
There was an event that took place in good old Topeka, Kansas.
Yes,
at
sir.
The T-Pack.
Yes, sir.
The Tupac.
The
T-Pack.
Yes,
the
sir.
T-Pack. Topeka Performing Arts Center.
Yes, sir.
You know, shouts out to them. You know, I am on that board. But there was a figurehead. There was one of the greatest motivational speakers that we've ever had to witness, who was there. Mm-hmm. Would you mind telling us who that motivational speaker was and what part you played in this?
When I was 16 years old, I had got sick and I had to stay home for like 3 weeks. And in that day, I was really kind of depressed in that time, but I ended up coming across some videos, and the guy who was speaking was just touching my soul with everything he was saying. So I went to his page. I started following him. Long story short, it's been 10 years. I have followed this man. I haven't missed one video. I done bought all of his books. I done, his merch, everything. And I just kind of followed his career. But at that time, when I was 16, he was still up and coming. He was still making videos in his basement and stuff. But now, this man is getting 6 figures of speech. He's got the top quality team behind him. He's got some of the greatest sponsorships, the NBA, the NFL, Michael Jordan, Nike, all these things. And so now he is the #1 motivational speaker in the world, and he has been for a few years. And this man goes by the name of Eric Thomas, a.k.a. E.T., the hip-hop preacher. And like you said, because he was one of my heroes who inspired me to get good grades, to be a good father, to be a good husband at the time, and everything, and just kind of elevate my life, I put on my vision board, man, I want to partner with this guy one day. I want to share the same stage with this man one day. And I just kept manifesting it and kept supporting it. And then fast forward to this year in October, here's what's crazy, bro. October 10th was the day he came to T-Pack, and I got to open up for him, and we did get to share the stage just like I wrote on my vision board. But the craziest part about that was on my vision board, when I said I wanted to share the stage with him, my bro said, put a time, just don't even think about it, just put a time down. And I wrote October 10th. And this was 5 years before this year. So it was, not only was it what I wrote down, but it was the day that I wrote down.
There's a new name for this man. JQ Nostradamus guest. JQ Nostradamus guest.
Hey,
man, how does something like that, I'm for real, like to the date?
To the day, bro. It wasn't the year, but it was still the day.
But the date.
I put October 10th, and the reason I did that was because my birthday's in October, but also we was working on the 10 Commandments project, so 10-10, it just sounded good, so I wrote it down. But 5 years later, actually on October 10th was the day that he came and I got to share the same stage with one of my biggest inspirations of all time.
Man, that was pretty amazing. I was in the crowd.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? You did your thing on your performance.
Yes, sir.
And everything is everything. And I like the way that you were even able to capture when you introduced him onto the stage. You had your camera out, it was filming, and it was so cool because just the way that it looked. You had a lot of pictures, the way you did them.
Yes, sir.
But the thing is, man, there's some people, there's not going to be, it's going to be less than 1% of people who ever get to share the same stage as an Eric Thomas.
Yes, sir.
What did that do for your positive belief in a potential future? How did that inspire you?
I'll tell you what. First of all, it's all God's timing, and he had his hands all over that situation. Shout out to the OG Cody Foster for putting the opportunity in front of me. Shout out to King Steez for taking those pictures, man. And that was my brother Sean and my brother Tonio who was recording that video. I'm glad they caught it on tape because I wasn't able to record. I was out there. So when I got off stage and they showed me the video, I was like, bro, this video crazy. But what that did for me was in this last year, I've gone through, not to get so heavy earlier, but I've gone through the most darkest year of my life this year. Just like I said, I was writing down some things on my vision board. There was a lot of fears and things that I wrote down that I did not want to happen, that pretty much almost all of those things happened in this 1 year. So I was really down at the time. So when I got the opportunity, it was like, whoa, like that really, while I'm on stage performing songs to uplift the crowd, I'm really uplifting myself as well. So what that did for me was, to answer your question, it opened my eyes to see a little light while I was surrounded by so much darkness. And it's like, so not only did a dream that I've been manifesting and praying for years come true, but I got to literally shake this man's hand who has given me so much light throughout the years. So it's like, again, while he's speaking to the crowd, he's also speaking to me as well. Backstage, we got to dap up, and I told him, I said, listen, I ain't gonna take too much of your time, but I just want to let you know that I love you, straight up. It's not often that you tell a grown man you love him that you've never met, but I had to tell him because I'm like, bro, for 10 years, you have transformed my life. And he looked me in the eyes. He's like, listen, I love you too, whether I know you or not, just because of your support. And I can see, obviously, with where you're at, with the people you're connected to, I can see that obviously my words have impacted you. So that really set the tone for kind of the fourth quarter of this year. And it was a beautiful thing. I can't even put it into words, really.
So everything that you're saying is something that a lot of people, there's a lot of people who do know about this, but your art
is
therapeutic.
Yes, sir.
For you.
Yes, sir.
So if you could speak into a little bit of that, when did you find out that this art form that you choose to do as far as hip hop and rap and things like that, when did you start noticing that this was a great outlet that helped your mental health?
Well, it's crazy. Me and you both got the love for the hip hop, man. You already know how it is. Like, we growing up, my family always played hip hop, and when I think about the artists who my parents were playing, like both my mom and my dad, they had a real love for Tupac. And so I got to see hip hop that speaks, you know what I'm saying, as a very young age. And now I'm watching all of my favorite rappers were like rappers who really speak on something.
I wrote this a long time ago.
I wrote this a long time ago. Dave Chappelle, stop hitting.
I told you, stop hitting the table. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't. Because, bro, I was just watching that the other day. That's why it's funny. But he's like, so I always knew I wanted to be an artist, whether that was a painter or an animator or somebody who danced, or maybe I just knew whatever. I was really into plays and theater growing up, so it's like I always knew whatever I did with my life, I knew it was going to kind of be centered around art. But like I think it was, again, listen to these people I'm about to name, like Run DMC and Jay-Z. And here I am, this 10-year-old kid listening to Run DMC and Jay-Z, and they made me go, no, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
And when I started listening, I liked the way how Run and them was dressing with the Adidas and how they was commanding the stage, and I loved the way Jay was poetically putting his manifestations into lyrics, and then they was coming true. And I'm like, man, so I'm starting to watch what these guys do, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. But again, I told you I'm 10 years old. So I'm really not talking about anything. I'm trying to, but I'm really not saying much. But I always was big on faith. So a lot of my lyrics had faith-based and God all centered around it. And that was one thing that I knew was an anomaly for me, because most people who I was listening to, and especially the people who I was hanging around, they wasn't caring about rapping about God or rapping about spiritual things. But here I am at 10 years old rapping about these things. But I really didn't know exactly what I was saying. I just knew I was feeling it in my heart. And then you get to when I get older, I'm a father now, and now I'm starting to talk more about dreams. And I was, like we talked about last week, I was traveling to every school in Topeka, Kansas, all of the 501 schools as a kid myself. And I was performing for all the schools, speaking to the kids, telling them about following dreams, listening to their parents and teachers, getting good education. And I ended up going to, I think, every school that year.
And you started doing this at, how old were you when you started
traveling? At this
traveling?
time, now I'm 15, 16 now. So it's about, I'm 5 years. So it's like, so now I've been practicing my pen. Here's what's crazy, bro. When I was in school, like 11, 12, 13, writing raps, my teachers would get angry because they're like, he's not even listening. He's not paying attention. He's doing his own thing. And I got my notebook confiscated every single day. Every teacher from every teacher. Shout out to every teacher at Meadows Elementary School, Jordan Middle School, Topeka High School, and Hope Street Academy. All these teachers, they're like, man, this dude, they take my notebooks, and here's what was crazy. They would all open my notebook, read what I'm writing, and be like, dang, this kid is kind of hard. Here, take your notebook back. They would give me my notebook back because they're like, we see where you're going with it. He's rapping about God. He's rapping about dreams. He's rapping about getting good. Because I was still getting good. I was getting good enough grades to keep passing. But they would give me my notebook back. So then that's when God had put the opportunity up for like, hey, you're going to travel to all these schools. You're going to speak to other kids who are looking up to you. And when I was doing that, that's when my message started to change even more. It started to get even more inspiring. And I remember Kyle Brown, who works for Young Life, I remember having a conversation with him, and I said, man, I was like, I really want to take this faith-based hip-hop to the next level. I don't see anybody who is doing it how I want to do it with faith music, with faith hip-hop, but really not be corny, because a lot of a lot of the Christian hip-hop and faith-based music that we were hearing was kind of corny, and it was like, man, it's like, I respect what you're trying to do, but it's not hitting as hard. And I remember he was like, have you ever heard of a guy named Lecrae? And I was like, no, I haven't. And he's like, I'm about to put you on some of his music. He put me on Church Close 1, and Gravity had came out that time. And literally that week that he put me on his music, Church Close 2 came out. So now I'm just listening to all of Lecrae's music. And here's where it gets crazy. So now, as I'm listening to Eric Thomas, I'm listening to Lecrae too. And Eric Thomas and Lecrae were the two people that really helped me kind of shape where I feel like my purpose was going. Mm-hmm. Like, it was like, even though I said Jay-Z and them were influencing me, I'm like, I don't want to be exactly like Jay-Z, because I'm not talking about the same things he's talking about. Let's be honest, he was all about money at a point in time. I'm not all about money. Run DMC, this is the 80s, and we in 2010s now. This is a whole different era. So Eric Thomas and Lecrae were influencing a lot of my stuff at that time now, because I finally saw somebody who looked like me, who was doing what I was trying to do. And in that same month, Lecrae came to Topeka. And I remember I was like, I gotta open. Cody Foster was the man who brought him there. So I went to Advise Excel thinking I was going to meet Lecrae. But really, it was just a meeting on getting Lecrae there. I walk in at a meeting. I'm looking for Lecrae. Where's he at? I got my demo in hand. And Cody was just talking for like an hour straight. And I'm like, so he must be the person to talk to. I go up to Cody afterwards, and I'm like, hey, man, here's my demo. Where's Lecrae? I'm trying to open. He's like, no, that's not today. He's like, we don't have any openers. I was like, well, can you just let me rap for him? He's like, I'm 16 at the time. He's like, man, I'm sorry, little dude, but I appreciate your ambition. I was like, well, so he's like, well, here's my card. I blew Cody's phone and email up for 2 weeks. Like, hey, man, I know you said no, but you got to let me open, because this is my inspiration, and I got to do it. And he just kept trying to say no politely, until like finally at the end of the 2 weeks, he was like, I have the email saved. He was like, listen, man, like I don't want to be rude, but you're not taking no for an answer, and it's kind of upsetting me a little bit. He didn't say it in those words, but I'm paraphrasing what he said. I come to find out it's one day before Lecrae comes. I'm doing everything, trying to figure out how I can do it. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody told me that he was going to be getting off the plane, and the first place he was going was Boys and Girls Club. I used to work at Boys and Girls Club. Okay. So I go to Dom and Williams. I go to Dom like, listen, you got to get me in there. And she didn't know what I had planned. I just like, you just got to let me come in. I just got to see. She's like, sure. Lecrae comes in there. He's talking to the kids. I'm sitting there waiting. And in the moment, it's kind of like a pause. I go put my CD in the Xbox. There was an Xbox. That was the only way to get the music to play out loud. I press play. It's my music. I grabbed a couple of the students and walked them up there with me, and I performed a whole song for Lecrae. And then when the beat stopped, I had to get an acapella off. So I dropped in a whole nother 16. And afterwards, Lecrae daps me, we take a picture, and he's like, man, I told him my story, and he's like, man, you're a dad? I'm like, yeah, how old? He's like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 16. I got to share my testimony with somebody who made me really want to do this. And when we dapped up, we took our picture, and he left to go get ready for the concert. Cody walks up to me and says, I told you no for 2 weeks straight, and you found a way to get it done anyway. And from that day forward, he has been one of the biggest mentors in my life. He has hooked me up with I don't know how many jobs and opportunities based off of that whole Lecrae story. So that's how it went, and it's like and I got to open up for Lecrae this year as well in Atlanta. Same year I opened up for Eric Thomas, I opened up for Lecrae in the same year in this darkest year of my life. It's crazy, bro.
That's amazing. Now, you've opened up for some other predominantly Christian hip-hop artists.
Yes, sir.
Could you name some? I know Triple E was one of them.
Triple E, KB, 1K Few, pretty much everybody who's on Reach Records, which is really, I'm going to be honest, I'm all about ownership and partnership. So I really, even though I want to be a professional artist for a living, I really know the ins and outs of the industry. You know, it's tricky. So I'm really not big on signing the dotted line. But if there was ever an entity or a company in the music business that I would want to either sign a contract with or partner with, it is Reach Records, just because of what they've done to me. Their music and everybody on their roster, Lecrae, everybody, they have changed and influenced my life in ways that I can't even speak of. So to open up for these same acts who influenced my life like that, man, I can't even, that's like I said, it's got God's hands all over it. It's bigger than me.
Yeah, so JQ, what have been some of your biggest challenges that you have faced as far as being a creative and some of the different things, or even being able to stay motivated or remaining inspired and different things like that? That
very thing, like I had talking to him, man. I ain't gonna say his name, but I was getting another interview on another podcast a few weeks ago, and he told me, he said, listen, he said, you're one of my favorite artists in the town, and that was a compliment to me. He said, but I gotta be honest, sometimes it's very challenging to listen to you because of just how faith-based your lyrics are. And what he was saying was, for the people who may not believe the same beliefs as me, so that can be tricky, but also for the people who may have the same beliefs as me, but they can't understand or comprehend the metaphors that I'm using, the scriptural text, and how I'm trying to put it in hip-hop form. So a lot of my songs and lyrics go over people's heads. And he's like, man, he's like, I think that has been a tricky thing for you. And it made me think, because I was like, that is very true. Like I'll go perform at churches and I'm too hood. Then I go to do a show in the hood, and I'm too churchy. So it's like, where y'all want me? Where am I? The balance. They don't know kind of where to put me. And we've done some shows together before where you've seen like we'll go into a church setting, and I'll go perform something, and they'll be like, oh, he's a little too militant. And then it's like, well, how is that? I'm literally saying the same things that is written down in the scriptures. I'm just putting it down and putting it towards my life. So I have a hard time with the balance of that, because I don't think people know kind of where to put me, and that has been tough. But to be honest with you, I don't plan on changing that. Maybe organizing it in a little better way, but I'm not going to water down my message or turn my back on what I feel I was purposely called to do just because some people can't understand it. Because there are those people who are understanding it and who are showing up to the shows, and they are supporting, and they love what we're doing, and they see just how much lives are being changed. When you come to my shows, you're going to see a whole melting pot of people. You're going to see senior citizens who love how I do be talking about the militant stuff, how I talk about the 60s, how I talk about what they did to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Fred Hampton and these guys. You're going to see people who of upper class who love my music because of how I talk about generational wealth and leaving legacies for your children. You're going to come and see college kids from the hood who like how my beats sound and like how I spit fast or I'll chop like you be talking about. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see plenty of kids. You're going to come to a JQ show and the front row is going to be packed with children. And really, I think, if I'm being honest, I think that the kids love that I tell them the truth. Because my music has no cussing in it, so it's like you can listen to it with the whole family. But it's like, I think the kids love that it's like, oh, he's talking to us about the same things that our parents and our teachers talk to us about, but he's saying it in a little more cool way.
Being authentic.
And being authentic with it. It's like a big brother. It's like they look at me like a big brother, and I love that. So it's like if all of these people can love it, especially the kids who I really do it for, then why would I change up?
I think that's great. I know you're a creating the culture
Yes,
on
sir.
what you're doing. So when people listen to you, they know what they're getting. I want to tease out a couple things about some future things that
Yes,
we're
sir.
going to be doing. So there's going to be a collaborative effort.
Yes, sir. Talk about
And
it.
I like to call what we do creative performance.
Mhm.
I mean, whether it's hip hop or whatever, you know, you've got to be creative with the way that you perform it and everything.
Yes, sir.
So there's a group here called Omni Circle. They got their own building.
Michael O. Shout out Michael O.
Michael O. Got their own building, 1301 Topeka Boulevard.
Yes,
you
sir.
know, they're arranging it like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes, sir.
3 different floors. Right now, the first floor is complete, and they're going to be doing some other things.
Yes, sir.
But they do different things to help build culture, and also as
Absolutely.
far as it's a collaborative space. They call it that instead of shared workspace, collaborative workspaces.
Yes, sir.
But there's something that me and you are coming together to do.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to involve spoken word poetry and things like that, because this is something that helps create the culture
Yes, sir.
of authenticity. But it's also going to be about placemaking, because we want anybody who comes in, if they were an artist and they performed, to where if somebody comes and they want to be able to get in touch with them, we want to keep their bios on file.
Yes, sir.
We want to keep their emails, their websites on file. And even if they have a product to move, that might be something that stays there as well, because we don't
Absolutely.
want anything to be a one-off.
Absolutely.
I'm going to do a little bit of name dropping, but it's going to be me and JQ who are heading that up.
Yes, sir.
You can expect an event every month. Once it's going to be 12 next
12 a year, man.
you know. But the way it's going to go won't be a traditional flow of things. It won't just be people getting up on the microphone. We're going to be creative with it, but we're not going to spoil it and tell you what that's going
Just
to be.
know it's on the way, 12 times a year, and just know we about to get this thing started. To all of the spoken word artists out there, man, be looking forward to a great opportunity. And shout out to Omni Circle for presenting it, and shout out for my boy SJ and Michael for hitting me with the call, like, hey, man, we want you to be a part of this, because it was a no-brainer for me.
And you know what's cool? We got both. We got the current poet laureate, Waskar Medina. I call him Rockstar Medina.
Yes, sir.
And my childhood homie, he's a professor at Washburn, Eric McHenry.
Yes, sir.
You know, so and then we got Desmond the poet Bryant up out of Wichita.
Out of
He's going
Wichita.
to be one of our people who continuously comes back. And there's going to be so much more. But we're going to arrange this in a way to where it's themed and everything. So we might be talking about memories and nostalgia.
Yes, sir.
Love and loss.
Yes, sir.
You know, I guess you could say personal development and things like that, and even just your lifelong journeys and stuff that you've had to deal with.
Yes,
but
sir.
Anyway, I'm glad that you're going to be a part
No,
of
I
that.
appreciate you, man, for asking me to be a part of it, man. Because to really, when we talk about music, my favorite part of the process is the lyrics. My favorite part is the poetry of it all. Like we were just talking about Nas earlier. Like guys like that whose lyrics pop out of the page. If you could take the beat off of it and just put the words on paper, you'd be like, man, who wrote this? And, you know, and another thing, God bless me, last year I was able to be in a national poetry contest with 500 of award-winning poets, like not just people off the streets. I'm talking about people who really travel the world and do this for a living. And for the first time ever, my first ever poetry slam against these gigantic people, I took 4th place. Shout out to everybody who came and supported and voted for me, man, because it was that I was really nervous. I was like, man, I'm looking at the people who were in the room. They got 10 championships under their belt. They got 25 championships under their belt. And here I am, an amateur to this thing. Taking 4th place was a big thing for me.
Well, I tell you what, do you have anything that you want to share? It's like if you have a poem, a verse or something, you know, that could always be pretty cool. We haven't done that on Creative Conversations yet.
I knew you was about to ask me for a verse. First thing first, I want to say, if you have time, go subscribe to the No Chain Q YouTube. That's all one word, No Chain Q, NOCHAINQ. You can go download and listen to me and my brother Matt Commander's new project, Neighborhood. Be looking. I don't know if I'm supposed to spoil this, but me and SJ, the man across the table, got some music coming too. I know he was talking about the poetry, but what about some of that Nashville chicken?
Oh.
And the next project, I'll tell you this. How about this? Instead of giving y'all a verse, I'll give y'all exclusive, Creative Pathways only. my new project coming out in a couple months is going to be called Lukewarm. And when you listen to the project, you'll understand why that's being called lukewarm. But this man across the table, 3 of the beats that I heard off the project, when I heard him, I said, I got to have his voice on it. So you're going to be hearing a lot of music from me and this man as well. And I don't know. I didn't know if too many people knew that you had the bars like that. I know they see you running around town doing everything else. I think he should run for mayor, but that's a conversation for a different day. But what about his bars?
Mr. Mike Padilla is doing a fine job.
He's talking about me and my bars, but I don't know if y'all know how many bars he's got. So, and thank you, bro, for coming to our album release party and blessing us with your presence. Like I said, me and my brother Matt Commander just dropped a new album called Neighborhood. 14 bomb tracks on there. You came out, you showed love, you showed support, and that meant a lot to all of us, man. So thank you for that, man. Thank you for bringing me to this beautiful building, man. Meeting your team. This place is fat. And I hope y'all to see more from your boy coming in the future, man. And just man, faith, hope, and love. There's 3 things that I want to leave y'all with. It ain't even about no bars from me. It's about faith, hope, and love. And I pray that everybody who's watching and tuning in don't lose any of those 3 things. And I wish the best for everybody tuning in, man.
You heard it here first with that man JQ, Nostradamus guest. I'm going to leave y'all with this. Nashville chicken. Me and JQ, no change, still spitting Nashville chicken. I'm from Kansas, Hill still clicking, boy.
I told y'all. I try to tell y'all.
So we signing off Creative Conversations. And thank you, JQ.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother.
Saying? It's always a pleasure to talk to you, bro. You're doing major things. I support you 100% anything you do. Looking forward to the future and hearing that lukewarm.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.